This is an essay about life titled Never Satisfied. For this essay, there is no particular order anything is in. Chapters are all random or not so random suggestions for bettering oneself. Thoughts will always appear and be added, curated by countless people, some very open-minded, others ignorant. Different backgrounds, views, and ideas for every subject imaginable. Some ideas have been ingrained inside of people since they were born. The hope for this book/essay is to possibly shift or change the way of thinking for simple things that are rarely viewed, analyzed, or questioned. Until life is won, happiness is reached, this will be incomplete for those who care. Because chapters seem to be limiting, in a sense of this is what this chapter is about and that is what that chapter is about, it's a good idea to just look at the paper without possible chapter titles. Just go on about thoughts on the subject with little order. That way, you can probably turn to any page and start reading there, because the rants/short stories are so diverse and unconnected. Different possible lessons in each anecdote. Be your own motivation. Many people strive to be like someone, have role models, people they look up to. That is nice, but why not strive to be your own motivation? Get ideas of qualities you want of certain people, the excellent things. Write them down. See yourself in 5 years if you want to accomplish those amazing feats or goals. Accomplish and push to defeat any weakness or excuse you have. Seeing students with 2 jobs in clubs and being a full-time student is incredible. Does alone time not exist? Is there such thing as relaxing or hanging out? What you do not want to do is look back 5 years from now and think of all the wonderful things you did. Hang out all the time, watch Swamp People every Tuesday night, and your other 3 shows that you recorded, work twice a week and make $150 a week, barely getting by, but still happy. You want to look back in 5 years and remember what a difficult yet rewarding life you started, how the legend you started. Life is tiring, so be tired at the end of the day from doing things. There is a difference between being tired from not doing anything all day and doing things all day and being tired from that. Remembering names. Remembering names could be almost as memorable as a firm handshake. It shows interest and care when it comes to other people. A firm handshake shows confidence and/or dominance depending on who you're asking. Working in a place with scores of people makes it difficult getting hired, and the first day remembering at least 5 to 10 names for the second day, people will feel important. There's a story in the book called How to Influence People and Win Friends about one of our presidents, the United States presidents. It claimed how he went out of his way to learn all the names of his workers, maids, valet drivers, security, etc. The valet driver wrote a book about the president and his own experience with saying nothing but positivity. Not claiming it is just because he remembered him by his first name, but believing it was a big reason he felt so important. Calling people, even the ditch diggers and janitors, by their first name makes them feel important. One of the few things everyone in the world craves. Never complain, only compliment. This will be hard for everyone to master, but once achieved, you will be as noticeable as someone who doesn't wear shoes. You know who you are. Not common, but common enough that you see it. Although everyone needs to vent every once in a while, no one likes someone who says things are too hard or oh woe is me. D, the barback once said, sometimes the best thing to do is say fuck it and just do it, in reference to all the things that had to be done that night. Before you open your mouth to complain again, remember that if you are reading this, you are likely to have access to basic necessities like water, shelter, food, and clothing. About 650 million people worldwide do not have access to clean drinking water, and 2.4 billion people do not have adequate sanitation. Source was washadvocates.org. A few other not so basic but overly common others are Wi-Fi, aircon, everywhere you go, means of reliable transportation are a few. Prithapurth Infant Homes is a community solely funded by donation that houses over 80 residents at their community in the Watala region of Sri Lanka. The majority of them cannot feed themselves. Here's a quick look into life as one of them. They wake up at 6 a.m. with a dirty nappy, which is 2 layers of old t-shirts used as a diaper. Then they're given a bath. After that, they are fed like babies, although the majority of them are over the age of 8. The food is usually mush. Feeding takes between 15 and 20 minutes for each of them. After being fed, the whole process for them is finished at 8:30 or so. They are brought to the therapy room. There are 4 parts of the community. This is focused on the My Tree part, where they are laid on the mat for about 3 to 4 hours until the physical therapist gets to them for less than 30 minutes. Sometimes they would be drooling on the mats, and there would be so much drool that they would have a layer of saliva on the side of their face for possibly hours. The therapist gets paid the equivalent of $100 to $130 a month for working 40-hour weeks in rooms with fans that are barely working and where there are flies everywhere. The therapist would stretch out their stiff muscles. Generally, no progression is seen. After that, there would be lunchtime at around 12 till 1 or so, then nap time until 3. The kids have no way of getting the workers of telling the workers they peed or pooped, since their means of communications are minimal to none. Some would then go back to the therapy room till 5 after their nap and tea time, then dinner at 5 till about 6:30. Then they would go to bed. The majority of the kids spent their entire lives staring at the ceiling with little entertainment or chance of living, in our terms of living. There is no aircon anywhere. Now put your life into perspective. Be the one who compliments others, not complains about them. Complimenting people will make you feel better, and the person you are complimenting even better. Find something unique about people. Patience, for example, that M from Chile has. She is trying to be a school teacher for pre-K kids, trying to teach us a card game with 8 rounds each, taking 25 minutes to complete each round. Half the people playing were having their own conversation, so she repeated herself 3 to 4 times. It was impressive, delightful, and painful to watch all at the same time. 2 examples. There was a girl in Prithapura named C. She was 17 years old, the same height as an 8-year-old, even though she could not stand, only sit/slouch in her wheelchair. Her disabilities were severe. She was diagnosed with 3 or 4 things, can't remember the specifics. She was really good at bending her left foot back into her mouth. Her thigh would turn 180 degrees, and then she would bend her knee up, bring her foot into her mouth. All her shirts and pants were knotted at the ends, so she wouldn't be able to knot her hands, which were nubs, only had thumbs present, and feet. When in her crib, which was anywhere from 16 to 22 hours a day, she usually radiated with a very bad smell, and the daily activities included staring at the ceiling and gnawing at her limbs. The last day of work, which was finally here, was feeding us. One of the kids, they all required a bib. Most of them couldn't handle all the food shoved in their mouths, and food would constantly fall on the floor or their clothes, bringing scores of flies to the area. Many kids that would sit outside in their wheelchairs they were confined to for hours a day would have anywhere from 15 to 25 flies on their face, just resting at their tear ducts of their eyes and corners of their mouths. The flies would only leave if you waved your hand over them like a fan, assuming the flies were feeding off of their salty tears and saliva. Anyway, walking towards the bib area, a stack of bibs at the edge of one of the cribs, C was sitting near it. The smell was excruciating today. Looking down at her in her wheelchair, she was staring me in the eyes, gnawing at her feet again. There was a 1-inch puddle of brownish-yellowish liquid in her seat where she was sitting. You could feel the warmth of it just passing by. None of the workers present wanted to clean her, so they put her by the door facing outside, which was near the bath, quote unquote. They waited for an hour until an older and more experienced worker came to clean her. She was waiting for about 1.5 to 2 hours. Otto Warmbier, who just recently died, is one of the unique few that decided to go to North Korea for a visit. For reasons unbeknownst to us, he decided to attempt to steal a North Korean propaganda poster. He was caught, of course. It is considered a hostile act. He was basically forced to say the United States government forced him to do it. This is what he said in court. And he said he should have never listened to them. Now there may not be much truth to this, but desperation is desperation. He is now facing 15 years hard labor in North Korea. Of course, the United States has asked for leniency towards Otto, saying it is an unjust punishment for the crime committed. Hard labor is not very well defined, but living conditions have been. Work is 12 to 15 hours a day. Food is 120 grams of rotten corn and 50 to 90 soybeans. The soybeans aren't given anymore. Rotting teeth. After work was reserved for entertainment, which included memorizing the prison rules until the whole group memorized them. No one would go to sleep. The living quarters are as follows. Small rooms containing up to 50 people per room. They are given one set of clothes, no undergarments, no socks, no sanitary napkins. Keep in mind this is only from personal accounts. The few that have survived have been set free earlier than their 12 to 15 year imprisonments. There are an estimated 200,000 people doing hard labor in North Korea. Different perspectives, different realities, and no chance to voice a complaint. Be brutally honest. Hurting someone's feelings are sometimes necessary if you're asked a question. Lying, unless faced with unjust consequences, should never be done. When you are honest, even if rude, it is justified. For example, if someone likes you, they tell you that they do, don't dodge the question or conversation. You know who you are. Let them honestly know how you feel about them. Don't waste your time or their time. If someone is important to you, let them know they are. In person, don't have quote-unquote those types of conversations over the phone or internet. There is no quote-unquote person, feeling, presence, or essence in them. When I say them, I mean in the phone conversations. In person, you can feel or see how the other person possibly appreciates you. You don't want to look back and wonder what would have happened or what would it have been like if you didn't do something or tell someone something. Fuck what ifs. That will be extremely regretful when you age. Being brutally honest can also tie into the quote, never complain, only compliment text. As Jay from Toronto said, quote, what if you're being unfairly treated, but it would be complaining, end quote. Certain circumstances allow for complaining, of course, but the main point is not to complain in normal day-to-day conversation. Complaining as a conversation or topic for filler words is nonsense. Avoid it. Quote, I'm tired, end quote, is the most common one. Guess what? So is everybody else. When you're upfront and straightforward with someone, you will be respected by those who you deserve respect from. If someone doesn't respect honesty, they are not worth your time. As stated in a TED Talk with NZ, quote, people lie to paint a better picture of themselves, connecting our fantasies to the person we wish we were. I misspelled that. Rather than the person we are. AN asked to identify a flaw. What can be changed about them to make them better? The only thing that could come to mind was lying. Not to bullshit like they have in the past. They respected the answer and expected that answer. Although they were upset, parentheses assuming, about this, what a fucking achievement. You ask a friend what can be improved about yourself from their point of view, and all they can think of is one thing: lying. Don't do it, even white lies. Honesty is the best quality someone could have. You know you're doing a good job of honesty when you've hurt people's feelings because you were being too honest. Good fucking job. We are made to always see what is wrong with us or someone. Strive to see the good in others, not flaws. Be genuinely interested in other people. You should be able to have a decent conversation with anyone for 5 minutes before knowing if that person is interesting, worthy of your valuable time, or not. If they seem worth it, ask them interesting questions. What makes you happy? How have you improved yourself the past year? How are you going to improve yourself this year? Goals, etc. Everyone loves being asked questions about themselves. If you listen to what other people are interested in, people become interested in you. That is essential to be interesting. People love talking about themselves. Talk to them about them. Keep talking about yourself to a minimal. Talking about yourself minimally can go along with being humble. An impressive part of any greatness would include being humble. Not talking about your own achievements, rather others, as well as goals to conquer. Everyone has their own, quote, art. Find out about theirs and ask them about them. You already know all about yourself. Learn about other people and listen. You can learn something from everybody you meet. Generally, a good way of connecting with people is if you find an interest you share. Hostile speaking. The unfortunate part is if you connect with someone quickly, it is unlikely you will see them again. Keep in mind this is when you're in hostels. Could be a few months or even a year or more till you see them again. That is why it is important to tell people how you feel about them and why they are important to you, and not sugarcoat things. Quote, people are interested in those who are interested in them. AD. Learn. Instead of asking people to constantly do things for you, learn how to do them yourself. Like the Bible teaching about teaching, give a man a fish, he's satisfied for a day. Teach a man to fish, he's satisfied for his whole life. Simple concept, yet few seem to grasp it. Learning real life skills are extremely exciting once you start. Learning expands your mind. Being knowledgeable is a gnarly thing. Look things up for yourself. Don't blindly listen to people. More specifically, and common now, Facebook posts. Research for yourself before you can come to conclusions about things. Connecting and grasping. Jufed, you will come to realize, because an altered state of mind can help aid in seeing the real picture, that your impulse and natural thoughts go to feeling connected and what you are comfortable with. What I'm trying to say is if you're fucked up, you want to feel a constant urge of being connected. A place where instant gratification is common and satisfaction is common. A need to feel something. What is it like to not be on your phone constantly connected 17 hours a day, realistically, because everyone's on their phone all the fucking time? What is the feeling like? Empty? Missing something? What if connectivity was lost? Would you be able to function without a phone? Grasping is an unrealistic idea we have created to escape proper reality. Realistic expectations we must face when facing death. That is what will happen sooner rather than later. The sooner you are prepared, the happier you will be inside when facing death head on. That was dark, but not really. Grasping is a form of comfort. A book that really gets into this concept is the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying. We feel best in our comfort zone, thus creating grasping, holding on to things we know, but once you can let go and not hold on to things and realize impermanence means nothing lasts forever, live in the now, always be aware, is the only thing that we actually know. That is factual, evidence is everywhere. Once we let go of grasping and get comfortable with the uncomfortable, then we will open up an entire door we have never noticed before. Social media is a fake connection we feel when on it. That is why we go towards it. It's an easy way to fill that void of connection we crave. But if we never experience this fake feeling of connection, that is wonderful. Once you start it is very difficult to stop. Some could argue that it is worse than a nicotine addiction. Be thankful and appreciate people. Every day wake up and be thankful. Once you are thankful for the little things, for example, it's sunny today, or you can still see, good vibes will be present. Appreciate more. Another chapter was going to be named, Tell Those Who Are Important to You They Are Often. Appreciate the moment as well as people in the moment. Smartphones are pretty cool, but they are now more than ever mentally isolating. Smartphones are pretty cool, but now more than ever they are mentally isolating people, so they do not have to actually communicate with one another. It has become the perfect socially acceptable distraction for any situation, a get-out-of-jail-free card for any uncomfortable situation. All the apps available make it possible to be a living, functioning zombie, but not actually living to the fullest and best of your ability. Things have gotten a little off topic now, but still good realizations that are rarely faced. Snapchat, people Snapchat their entire lives, constantly updating stories filled with nonsense that people scroll through that don't actually care about. Maybe it can help the drug dealers show off their product in a non-traceable fashion. There are always positive there's always positive in things. Wasting time because the people around them can't satisfy them like Snapchat can. Snapchat has the talent to satisfy millions without having a personality or without being an actual person. What a skill to have. Life's rocky when you're a gem. The little things are incredibly important. You can see any second your sight can be taken away. You can hear any second that could be taken away. Be aware and thankful for all the little things. As you are more thankful, you will become more positive and happy. Give better vibes out into the universe. You're a magnet. What you think and what you put out into the universe will come back at you. Everyone loves being praised and awarded for what they enjoy and what they are good at. A little praise goes a long way, especially if that person annoys the shit out of you. Compliment them on something you like about them. You and that person will feel better after it. Live minimally. Less materials means less worries and problems, usually. Before traveling, sold my house and everything in it. It was such a great feeling, said M from the UK. Like a weight lifted off your shoulders, one can assume. You don't have to worry about getting robbed, she continued. Taking the bus may be cheaper, but you might have better stories to come out of it. But taking long-distance bus rides, you will lose days off of your life on the bus. You will be exhausted. Stories and experiences could trump that convenience of being tired. Not always, though. When you die, there will be no use for it. If the item isn't bringing you joy, why do you own it? Just dragging you down. People are better than any material obtainable. So complex and unique in every imaginable way. Less is more. Everything you find sentimental ideally should fit into a bag, ready to run away at any time. Not really, but that's always a thought, to run away. Be simple in things you do, and enjoy them. Love what you do what you love. Wish there was a little more to write about this topic. Less is more. Ha. Stay in touch with people that are important. Now it is easy. Facebook. That extra nicotine addiction mentioned earlier. Put the effort in to stay up to date with people who are important to you. Don't abandon people unknowingly just because life is happening to everyone. A 30-minute phone call every once in a while is sufficient to stay in contact with people. It's easy. If they don't try to talk back and aren't genuinely interested in you, you can't change that. You can never change someone, only yourself. You can give people ideas to think about, but most of the time you can't change them unless they want to change themselves. Talking to strangers is probably against your rules for most of your life. This is a very dumb rule. Get rid of that rule. The most interesting people you will ever meet will be strangers in the beginning, and often you probably weren't even supposed to meet them. Those are the awesome stories of rad people you weren't even supposed to meet. Hostels. Easiest way to do it. This is a hypocritical segment. Now that now that life is happening and you don't see people you want to see all the time, it's a struggle. Yet just know, if you're meant to stay in contact, you will stay in contact. The universe does its work. Get your priorities straight. Getting juved shouldn't be at the top of your to-do list. Some people have no desire of touching any drug or type of alcohol and never will. That's cool because they suck when taken in excess and constantly, but everyone should try it and understand the feeling of being drunk or high before they talk bad about it, excluding hard drugs like meth and heroin, of course. What M.M. says about food can go a long way with just about everything else in the world you have never done. Try it, take one bite, and if you hate it, then you never have to eat it again. But you never know what it's like if you don't try it. Jufing is an easy escape from reality and shouldn't be a constant thing. If done constantly, your priorities probably are not in the correct order. You'd probably be looked down upon by many others. That should be worth your time. And if people look up to you, jufing, wow, help them. Here's another okay thing. If you don't have the money for something, don't buy it. How can you possibly go out often, buy shit with money you don't have? Things that you don't need if you're broke. Don't be stupid. said, always be better today than you were yesterday. That's a great one. Be knowledgeable about what you talk about. Those who get into the abyss of drugs or alcohol are those who couldn't accomplish their dreams. What they strive to fucking be. Ugh. Those who get into the abyss of drugs or alcohol are those who couldn't accomplish their dreams. What they strive to fucking be. Go outside and get something, man. Florida Man on Vimeo. Drugs and alcohol clear the minds of the failure they achieved in life. Don't be like them. Be better than them. Be patient with those who don't understand or realize they are making you impatient. It's fucking hard, but for the short and permanent time you're forced to be with them, later exclude yourself from impatient situations. Relax and don't get frustrated. Patience is a form of wisdom, said someone. If you're slow or naive, there isn't much you can change about that. That sucks. Almost goes along with being born stupid. Being naive shows immaturity. Hopefully you can grow out of that, and hopefully you can find someone who can deal with your slowness, their patience level, or what they are attracted to is fucking unique and outstanding at the same time. Rant about judgment and gossip. A huge problem that the majority of the population suffers from is caring what others think. This needs to be emphasized. Those who talk bad about others are truly just taking their insecurities out on other people. Nothing good comes from talking shit or judging. Why use your valuable energy gossiping? How does that benefit anyone? Much of what you talk about, not just shit talking, will not matter in 5 years. Why not talk about relative or controversial issues, topics, and learn others' opinions of things? Once again, be genuinely interested in other people. Although you shouldn't care what other people think of you, this can only go so far. Not everyone can be as careless as you are. Therefore, you're doing something out of the norm, kind of, or really weird and off. And you are with people. The more than likely they probably want to distance themselves, just for the moment. Your friends may be just as unique and not care, but if they aren't, and you're in public, don't be that fucking weirdo clipping their nails while waiting in an airport. The only person you should be worrying about impressing is yourself. Don't be that weird kid that usually does dumb shit just for attention. It is wasteful. Why do weird kids usually always have great public speaking skills? They don't care what other people think of them. The people you should surround yourself with are those who like you for being you. They are the best people for you. But make sure they are winners. Do not worry about finding the correct people to hang out with. They will come in time. For now, focus on you and your priorities, previously mentioned or aforementioned somewhere. Something to think about. If you were in somebody else's shoes, you could be just like them. Judgment is only negativity. Thought from October 2015. Looking around, there are so many people gossiping about things that have no relevance to anything actually important. Generally about other people. Speak with other people about ideas, not other people. Cell phones are killing the youth's face-to-face ability to socialize. 4 out of 5 people around are glued to their cell phones, doing what? Killing time. Being distracted with a box of technology that was made to distract them from real life. Killing time is killing them. Thought while getting off the bus. Girl caked up. Girls don't believe the societal norm or expectation that makeup makes you prettier. The name itself is Makeup. Be real. Those who don't appreciate the real you aren't worth your time. You should not classify people. Judgment is imposed when you classify people. Do not judge someone by their current state of being, because 1. You don't know their hardships or things they are going through. Honey, which is Humans of New York, as they don't know yours and probably don't care about them. And 2, someone's physical being/state can mean very little about their reality and perspective on the world. The poorest people in the world can often be the happiest. Judgment should be reserved for God in one form or another. If you're spending more money than you're making, then you're fucking up. Sometimes you have no choice, and you have to, of course. But if you do not need to, don't. Think logically. Work so much you don't have time to spend the money you're making. This should only be done in high school and university, when your expenses should be at their lowest in your life, other than auto insurance. SW. In the case that bikes are a good exercise. And being outside for 15 minutes a day increases happiness levels all around. So what I'm saying is, if auto insurance is too expensive, get a bike. They're good exercise. They're cheap. This was written a few months ago, reread it, and I disagree with it. The money-making part. Life is about making deep connections with other people, and that is what you should strive for. If you're lonely and have a hard time with this, then you should grind. Constantly better yourself, work on yourself, get your money up, and become the strongest version of yourself. You should save money for future adventures, better things in life that are not material things but rather experiences. Buy thrills, not hills. Buy the opportunity to travel and experience a different way of life in another country. The world is your oyster is completely true, but money helps it happen. As long as you work towards something, you can achieve anything you fucking want. Sitting around others talking about greatness does nothing. Get out there and do it. Let others determine what you are and what you are about instead of telling them. Don't show, don't tell. Actions are louder than words. Take advantage of being youthful. Take advantage of all the stupid shit you can do and get away with, and own it. Take advantage of laughing and crying and feeling so much that your heart feels like it actually ... An unfinished quote that I was probably too drunk when I wrote and I couldn't read it. Everything happens for a reason. The only thing we are given, no matter who you are, where you are from, everything happens for a reason. The only thing we're all given, no matter who you are, where are you from, and it's free, is time. You're given a certain amount of time, which only the universe knows how long you have. Spend time with those people you value. Spend time with those who value you. Spend time with valuable people. Spent time with valuable people is never wasted. People come and go, and we lose people, whether it is physically or mentally. But if they were important to you at one time in your life, it is not wasted. The difference between winners and losers in life depends on how people spend their time. Since we don't know how much time we have, this has been mentioned before, tell people what you think of them up front, positively or negatively. You don't know the last time you will physically see someone and regret not doing it. The thing that makes people successful in society's eyes is limited to money. What should make people successful is achieving continuous happiness. All major philosophical influences of history have generally agreed on the same thing. Happiness is the purpose in life. Questioning faith. Still browsing the religions probably wasn't a good way to phrase it, but it's true. Learn about other religions. Educate yourself on other possibilities of things that can happen to your spirit. Not looking at the aspect of religion, just logic and fact. We are complex animals. There is no denying this. Well, there is, but there shouldn't be. Our conscious mind is only an estimated 5% of our brain usage. Think about that. We only use the power of 5% of our brain consciously. Without consciousness, what are we? Without memory, what are we? Still present, yet not knowingly here. Back to being animals. We are very complex animals that have created many more things than any other animal. That's it. Just because we are more complex animals morally, why would we want to have more rights than any other animal or being on Earth? We are them, yet we think we are better than everyone else. A somewhat decent and possible idea for our being is that we have, as our soul or spirit, has technically been on this planet forever. Just in different forms, maybe not always conscious. What if other animals or plants were just like us, but stuck in a different plane of consciousness or physical state that we couldn't understand? How can the only super complex animal, us, have souls and no other living beings? That thought is selfish. Without memory, how can we live? How can we have faith, trust anyone, or even live? I said that twice. Memory is all we have. Everything is in the mind. Learning to forgive people for wrongdoings is one of the best traits someone could have. Forgiveness is a trait that anyone from any culture can have. Admire those who forgive others. Old people can teach you a lot if you wish to listen. Ask them questions about their life, or to tell you stories. Most older people are basically thrown out and not acknowledged after a certain age, and once you can't do certain things. Many lack the proper amount of interaction with others, something we all crave, attention. Imagine being old, filled with all these life experiences, stories, lessons, and having made it so far that you have no one to share with, unless you basically pay for someone to sit with you in your presence and time unless you basically pay someone for their presence and time off their life to sit with you. How shitty. Many just want someone to talk to. Few care to listen. Having self-worth. Be hard to get. Don't go around and have sex with whoever. Physical appearance often means nothing. Be worth something. The more you get around, the less self-worth you have. No one can feel what you are feeling or thinking, or have an understanding of things unless you speak, including but not limited to pain, feelings, or emotions. This thought came after seeing a group of people who were hungover, only knowing this because they were the drunk ones last night. Walking by them, you wouldn't know the stories from the night prior or anything that happened, just another ordinary group in the crowd. Communication is key in all situations. First impressions are important, but can be extremely misleading. It's just a thought. Assumptions lead to misinterpretations, and don't do it. The only reason people assume is because of miscommunication. If you assume something without factually knowing something, you are wrong. You need to communicate better. Start asking rather than assuming. It will make life much easier. Perspective is the way someone or something views the world. Our whole being/mindset is based off of this. F from Israel told a story. There was a homeless man that saw a cigarette that was 3/4 smoked. He picked it up and smoked it. Our perspective is usually, how disgusting, why would someone do that? His perspective, why would someone only smoke 3/4 of their cigarette and throw it out? Someone who is born into poverty, nearly no way out, in a place where clean water is abundant and must walk miles to get clean water. If a new resource of clean water was only a few feet from their living quarters, their entire life would change. No longer they need to make the trek to get clean water. For most of us, this is probably a completely foreign, literally, idea that we can't completely understand unless we have dealt with it firsthand. If you look and think positively and send good vibes out into the universe, good vibes will come back. Your thoughts are a magnet for your reality. It's already been stated before. Adaptability. Lambay Island in the winter was difficult for someone not used to it. Taking a ship called the Shamrock, which was captained by A and J, they were used to woofers coming and going off the island. It wasn't unusual. First getting to the Malahide Marina, the two other woofers were just in Dublin for the weekend, since working wasn't required on weekends. Jay got his jacket stolen when they were in the pub and went out for a smoke. He had to go to the thrift store and find another one. He found one for €3. They also picked up some weed, having no money left to their name after the weekend. 8 deer carcasses that were gutted, beheaded, and de-limbed were quickly thrown into the Shamrock upon arrival. They were in such a rush because the tide was moving out soon. And if they didn't rush, they would be beached. Cold winds were hitting everyone around, including the 3 that lived on the island, A, TJ, and D. They had lived there for years and were used to it. Was escorted to the cottages where the woofers lived. It was cold. The wood stove hadn't been on all weekend, so the cold air lingered, especially in the bathroom. The weekly supply of groceries was sitting on the table, as well as its aura of excitement. There was a small 3 by 6 room you entered before actually getting into the cottage, where you wiped your shoes and took them off. Opening the door, there was a small common room, trinkets and books along the desk, shelf on the left side, 2 chairs in the front, 4 more around the small dining room table, wood stove in between the 2 rooms on the right, a small 10-inch TV directly in front opposite the 3 by 6 room. To the left of the TV was a door to the narrow kitchen. Only one person can walk through at a time with ease, unless they were obese. Cupboards on the top left, sink to the right where the water went down a drain directly outside outside of the cottage. Stove further past the cupboards on the left side, which had to be manually lit. Continue walking and you hit the bathroom on the right. You walk inside and it is always as cold as outside, excluding the wind. Water droplets gathered on the ceiling ready to drop at any moment. The ceiling was only 6.5 feet high. Beer was left in there, as no fridge was needed or owned. They were left along the side of the sink. After groceries, we went to the castle to sand down radiators. The radiators were over 100 years old, along with most of the castle. The main part of the castle was built in the 1600s. The rest in the 1900s. The owner of the island, wanted to meet formally. Sat down to fill out paperwork in case an injury occurred. All 3 of us didn't have insurance, and one of the other woofers almost lost his finger the Friday before. He was furious after my arrival, stating it wasn't his problem if an injury occurred. Right. Still stayed the 2 weeks as promised. He had to settle with it eventually. Going back to the cottage for lunch, it was a great idea to climb on top of the wall surrounding the castle for a picture. It wasn't after 3 seconds of climbing up the icy wall that there was a yell from the castle. "What the fuck are you doing? You have an insurance! Get the fuck down!" That was exciting. Many artifacts in the castle were numbered. They seemed all to be placed in a book or main index of items in the castle. The next 2 weeks consisted of Betty White, off the rockers, sketching, no Wi-Fi. Wow, impressive. And my favorite was pissing and watching this stream of water hit the toilet and steam rising from the piss. Much labor that made it seemed like days dragged. Friday was the day to leave. The tides might have not been high enough to get to mainland, they said. Luckily, we went to Dublin to meet CK from. Luckily, they were. Went to Dublin to meet CK from Cork a few nights before she returned home. Met some more people in Dublin, but wasn't as exciting as Galway, the incredible city, Ireland, man. By the way, in the bathroom when you would take a shower, the water was either extremely, extremely cold or extremely, extremely hot, and only unless you got the perfect place where the dial was, then the water was like decent. We constantly went 3 days wearing the same clothes, socks, everything. A few more things. If you're getting paid to do something, you should be tired when you finish doing it. Don't wake somebody up from their sleep unless told to do so by that person. What ifs suck. Don't do it so you don't wonder. Strive for confidence and independence instead of in numbers. Every human strives for the same thing, the wanting to feel important and to be happy. Everyone strives for those feelings no matter who you are. Everyone has an art, a passion. Ask them about it. Knowledge is power. Don't be mean. Recommendations. Take a multivitamin and fish oil every day. Don't drink Four Locos. Don't be mean. Books. The Tibetan Book of Living and Dying, How to Influence People and Win Friends, Be Here Now, Unlearn, The Four Agreements, and The Alchemist. Quotes. We were all stardust at one time. We will eventually be it again. This is just a test. See the bigger picture. Florida Man, Vimeo. Being naive illuminates immaturity. NC. Find your anchor. Something you can always fall back on at any time to get back on your feet. DJ. What others think of you is none of your business. Unknown. Other. Jesse Houston, Monte Harris, Eric Thomas, Elliot Hulse, and Sonny DeVils.